If you've endured too much, it may not look like pain anymore. It may look like being the one who stays calm, the one who doesn't make a scene, the one who gets home, turns off the car, and just sits there in the dark for a minute because something in them hasn't caught up yet. Or the one standing alone in the kitchen at night, one hand on the counter looking fine, feeling nowhere. That's the part people miss. Enduring too much does not always make you look broken. Sometimes it makes you look composed. Sometimes the most unsettling thing about enduring too much is that you stop looking hurt. You call it being tired. Other people call it strength. But sometimes what they're really looking at is a person who learned how to survive so well that even their pain became quiet. And after a while, people start reading that quiet the wrong way. They call you calm, mature, steady, thoughtful, like you're just naturally good at holding yourself together. But calm is not always the same thing as peace. Sometimes it is numbness, sometimes it is depletion. Sometimes it is what happens when your system has been carrying too much for too long and no longer has the energy to react out loud. And what looks like maturity is not always something that was gently taught. Sometimes it comes from learning, very early, how to be low maintenance, how to stay composed, how to be useful, how to need less, how to read the room before you speak, how to keep your feelings from becoming one more problem for someone else. So yes, people may admire how controlled you are, but the part of you they admire may have been built under pressure, not peace. And that misunderstanding matters because what happened next wasn't just emotional, it became physical. And that misunderstanding matters because what happened next was not just emotional. It started changing the way your body moved through the world. When stress happens once, your body reacts. But when stress becomes repeated, when emotions feel unpredictable, when overwhelm lasts too long, your system can stop treating tension like an exception. It starts treating it like preparation. So even when nothing is happening, something in you stays a little ready, a little watchful, a little braced. That is why you may read a text message 4 times before you send it. Why you replay a conversation after it ends and keep searching for the exact moment the tone shifted. Why someone answering a little differently than usual can make your stomach tighten before your mind has even decided whether anything is wrong. And why, when life finally gets quiet, relief does not always come first. Sometimes suspicion does. Sometimes your body has learned to expect the turn before the turn arrives. People often call that intuition. And sometimes it does feel like intuition, but a lot of the time it is something more familiar than magical. It is pattern recognition learned through survival. Your mind may not have become dramatic. It may have become trained. And the strangest part is not just that this changes how you react. It can change how you see yourself. After a while, survival stops feeling like something you are doing in response to life. It starts feeling like your personality. Like this is just who you are, just naturally independent, just naturally quiet, just naturally easy to be around. But some of those traits are not as simple as they look. Sometimes independence is what it becomes when needing people has felt too expensive. Sometimes quietness is not peace at all. It is overwhelm with nowhere safe to go, so it turns inward and stays there. Sometimes being easy to deal with is what happens when you learn early on to ask for less, need less, and take up less space. The deepest changes are the ones you stop noticing as changes. They disappear into the way you describe yourself, into the way other people describe you too. It is a little like living in a house that's been fixed up on the outside. Everything looks calm, clean, solid. But inside, the alarm system is still so sensitive it treats every small sound like a break-in. And when you live that way long enough, it does more than make you tired. It can make you incredibly good at reading people. You start catching things other people miss. A pause that lasts a second too long. A smile that looks polite but worn out. The flatness in someone's voice when they say they are fine. The strange feeling that someone is trying very hard to seem okay, and somehow you can tell. That kind of sensitivity can look like empathy, and sometimes it truly is empathy. But sometimes empathy begins earlier than that. Sometimes it begins as alertness, as learning that the room matters, that moods matter, that safety can depend on noticing what is changing before it changes too much. So yes, you may become thoughtful, perceptive, careful with people. You may become the person who notices what others are carrying without needing it explained in perfect words. But being able to read everyone else does not always mean knowing how to let yourself be read. And that is where it often starts to hurt in a deeper way. Because many people who have endured too much become the one everyone leans on, the calm one, the steady one, the one who knows how to listen without making someone feel foolish for being honest, the one who can sit beside another person's pain without rushing to clean it up, the one who knows how to make other people feel safe. But standing on the other side of that can feel strangely impossible. Knowing how to hold space for someone else does not automatically teach you how to ask for space for yourself. Knowing how to comfort people does not mean you know how to say, "I'm not okay," especially if some part of you still believes that the moment your pain becomes visible, it also becomes a burden. So you get used to carrying things quietly, to going inward instead of reaching out, to looking functional on the outside, even when something in you is overwhelmed and asking for relief. The people most trusted with other people's pain are often the least fluent in showing their own. And that loneliness does not stay contained. It follows you into closeness. After a while, vulnerability can start to feel expensive. Not because you do not want closeness, but because closeness has not always felt safe to you. Sometimes it came with disappointment. Sometimes with unpredictability. Sometimes with criticism, confusion, or pain that arrived too fast for you to protect yourself from it. So you start editing yourself. You type the honest version of a message, then make it softer before you send it. You need help, but the words "never mind" come out first. You say sorry before you even know whether you did something wrong. And even in good moments, part of you is still preparing for the shift, the distance, the pullback. It was never closeness itself that taught you fear. It was the price closeness used to carry. And this is where many people begin to call themselves broken. But you are not broken. These are not character defects, they are adaptations, protective responses, emotional reflexes shaped by experience. Your mind may have learned to reduce risk by reducing need, to reduce hurt by reducing exposure, to stay functional by staying guarded, composed, and easy to handle. That is not the same thing as being flawed. That is what adaptation can look like when someone has had to keep going for a very long time. You grew around pain because some part of you was trying to survive it. And what protected you so well may have become the very thing you started blaming yourself for. The distance, the guardedness, the overthinking, the way you brace before anything has even happened. And yet, that is still not the whole story, because none of this came free. There was a cost to becoming this watchful, a cost to becoming this careful, a cost to learning how to read hurt before it fully arrived. But there is also a kind of tenderness that can grow there. People who have endured too much often become deeply sensitive to kindness. They notice sincerity, they notice gentleness, they notice when someone is careful with another person's heart. Some people become gentle because they know exactly how much damage carelessness can do. They know what it feels like to be handled without care, so they learn to give other people the softness they did not always receive. And sometimes that is why others feel safe around them. They feel understood, they feel less alone, they feel like they can finally put something down. But even the gentlest people still need something many of them never learned how to receive. And healing often begins there, not in becoming colder, not in becoming unaffected, and not in proving, one more time, how much you can carry before you finally collapse. You do not have to earn rest by breaking. Healing can be quieter than that. Sometimes it starts with noticing the old alarms when they go off. Not obeying them automatically, just noticing them. Sometimes it is learning the difference between danger and discomfort. Learning that not every moment of tension means something bad is about to happen. Sometimes it is naming a need without apologizing for having one. Sometimes it is letting yourself be supported, even if support feels unfamiliar at first. Even if part of you does not know what to do with kindness that does not ask anything from you in return, because peace may feel strange before it feels safe. And the most important part may be this: Strange does not always mean wrong. It can take time to stop bracing. It can take time to trust what is gentle. It can take time to believe that rest is not weakness, that being cared for is not the same as losing control, and that your feelings do not become less valid just because you learned how to hide them well. What helped you survive deserves compassion, but healing asks for something different. Not that you become less human, but that you become less alone inside yourself. And that matters because adaptation is not destiny. What helped you survive one chapter does not have to run your whole life. You can learn new rest, new boundaries, new trust, new ways of belonging to yourself. You can build a life that feels gentler than the one that shaped you. You are allowed to outgrow the version of you that was built only to endure. And if some part of this felt uncomfortably familiar, that may be more important than it looks. Because sometimes the first real sign of healing is not a breakthrough, it is recognition. Before you go, there is one quiet way to know whether this is the season you are in. If this video put words to something you have been carrying for a long time, let that be your sign. And if it did, leave a quiet "I'm learning" in the comments. Sometimes even that small kind of honesty can be a beginning. If this video gave language to something you have never fully known how to explain, give it a like so more people who feel this way can find it too. And if this is the kind of space that helps you understand yourself a little more clearly, stay with us by subscribing. And if you want to keep going from here, the next video to watch is why it's hard for you to ask for help. Because for a lot of people, that is where this story continues. Until then, be gentle with the part of you that learned to survive this way.